tomatoes, sir. Start today, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to the well-traveled Mr. Mark Laurie.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Tommy, are we live? Thank you. Mr. Rossi, we are live streaming this meeting. It goes around the World Wide Web, and the viewing audience has hit 1 million. Actually, we start every meeting by saying hello to one of our top employees' mother. Good evening, Mrs. Macri. We are very glad that you're watching, and we really like your son's dark suit today. However, we think that you should talk to him about getting a razor. I just wanted to welcome Mrs. Macri to our viewing audience. While I'm welcoming people, before we get into Mr. Arasi, I just wanted to welcome Ms. Lynn Tompkins, who has joined us in central office. And at the appropriate time, I know Lynn and Carrie will talk to you, and they have certainly been put to work immediately, especially leading a couple of audits that we're undergoing. So I want to welcome Lynn. I want to give you an update on Harjat, our top student. Did you get your 20-week report card? Microphone, please.
I did.
How are your grades?
I made high honor roll again.
High honor roll again. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, give her a round of applause. And have you, this is kind of like a journey, Tommy. We could do this as a movie within a movie. The Harjat College search.
Oh.
Have you narrowed it down?
I'm waiting on 3 more colleges.
Okay.
But one of the good ones that I got accepted into was Rutgers University. So,
very good.
Top 10% for nursing.
It is a wonderful school. So that's on one of your potential lists.
Yes, it is.
And you're waiting for 3 others.
Yes, I am waiting on 3 ones.
Have you heard from Purdue?
That's March. Around March, I'll get the response for that.
I would like the provost from Purdue, who I'm sure is watching, to listen to this and make sure you admit Harjat immediately. You will not go wrong if you're lucky enough to get her.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're lucky enough to get her. That's what we like about you, Harjat. And also, welcome to Mr. Wotton, your superintendent, coming up very soon. We're glad he's at the table with us. So welcome, everybody. We have a brief presentation from a friend. Got to be reacquainted with Mr. Arasi over a couple of phone calls and conversations. He's a 22nd and Woodlawn, Independence Avenue guy. I was a 24th and Willow guy. He has had some conversations with a couple of board members and knows and has worked with a couple of our board members. And I just want to welcome you, Mr. Arasi, and ask you to come to the microphone and say that we had a really, I would say, nice conversation about special education. And I want to thank you as a parent. His child does not go to our district. His child is very successful in the Lewiston Porter district. One of the things that Mr. Arasi expressed his passion about was special education and structure for special education students. And I compliment you as a parent taking that interest and then also talking about the system. So instead of having a phone conversation, separate conversations, I know your intention is to visit board meetings, and this is a work session this evening. We allocated about 10 or 15 minutes to hear what you have to say and welcome you to the Niagara Falls School District. And say we're glad you're back in Niagara Falls, and we wish you and your son well and your family well, but we would love to hear some of your thoughts.
Thank you. Is this working okay for
Yes.
everybody? Yeah, my name is Jim Urasi. I'm the parent of an 11th grader at Newport. My son's 11th grade, he has an IEP, has some auditory processing, some ADHD issues. He struggles with math and science. Got like a 95 average. He's taken college history classes, doing very well in a lot of things, but I've been very engaged, one of those engaged parents who from the beginning of his academic career was involved with all the teachers, with all the IEP teams. And I have to admit, going through this process of observing what's going on, I've seen that the educators themselves, I've been very impressed. Great, loving teachers, professional teachers, and administrators alike. But I've been just so surprised of the system, that the model that you guys are forced to use for the kids. The reality is, as you already know, and I'm probably saying things that you guys already know, but I just want to get them out there. Children only learn at their own pace. We all know that. There is no science or data. When you look at a lot of the panels that have been convened in the education policy-making efforts over the past 100 years, no science, no data supports the basic model that you're forced to use, which is certainly K through 8, a one-size-fits-all. You move all the kids along at the same pace. Doesn't work. Your typical, you can walk into a third grade, second grade class oftentimes, and you'll have your two teachers, and the teachers work with those kids accordingly, but guess what? When week 5 comes, you have to move the kids, you introduce the next lesson. When week 6 comes, so on and so on. These kids are forced to learn at their own pace. So you already know that's not a way to have meaningful learning for those kids. One of the things that I was struck with watching my child struggle with particularly math is that there really wasn't any alternative. Yes, you get extra help, but the reality is you just need to slow the pace down. And unfortunately, you're familiar with federal education law that demands fair access to public education. Federal education law actually allows the pace, especially for an IEP student, allows the pace to be modified so that child experiences meaningful learning. State education law still requires, hey, we've got to get to the goal of these Regents bars. This is our standardized protocol and curriculum. So the schools, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can't really adjust pacing a whole lot because still got to meet the state standards. So you end up with a situation where it's not even just IEP kids, but let's face it, some kids, they may not move the standard pace. For example, math. It's designed to meet a Regents pace, which that pace is very meaningful and relevant for STEM careers, for STEM-minded kids who want to go into STEM-minded careers. The reality is, over half of the kids have no interest in STEM careers. So the relevance of that pace and that math depth is irrelevant for a lot of those kids. In the old days, you guys are probably familiar with it, they used to have what's called tracking. You would just take some of the kids who were struggling a little more, put them into separate classes, and then you had stigma. You had, those are the slower kids, these are the faster kids. That was based on abilities. From a marketing perspective, if you had to brand something, you branded abilities. You really needed to brand interest. You needed to brand STEM programs. You needed to brand arts and humanities. You needed to brand general studies, because that's real world, real life experiences. And what I found is watching my son and him develop, I said, listen, he's forced to have this pace, which is irrelevant. He's not learning anything meaningfully. Why don't we have interest-based pathway for, you call it whatever you want, but you can just say arts and humanities is one, general studies is another. I, as a parent, and let me tell you this also, with my business, I've been into over 20,000 homes through Buffalo area and Rochester area, spoken with thousands of parents, spoken with well over 1,000 educators at every level. Spoke one person from the federal education department, 2 from the state, and superintendents and everybody below that. And what you have is you have pretty much a lot of agreement that it needs to be interest-based pathways. And when you're looking at the kids, like I said, I looked at my son, said, why don't schools have arts and humanities, you know? And you don't need to create brand new, because I know initially you're thinking, oh gosh, there's a whole curriculum development problem. Well, the reality is this. The science shows, and you already know the data shows, when that kid learns at his pace, even if you don't change this regent's pace, if you just allow the kid to learn at his own pace and not force him to the next level, the data and science shows that kid will learn much better, much more. So these regents math exams that you're forcing half of the kids, you're forcing at a pace beyond their capability. If you, without changing any of the curriculum, just let them move through that program at their own pace, they will do far better. In fact, right now in high school levels, you've got 2 paces. You've got AP and Regents, okay? Well, that pattern exists through the rest of the student population. So arts and humanities or a general studies pace, that will kind of mirror the same sort of differences for those kids. So when I look at it, I say, I as a parent and a bunch of other parents whom I know, having talked to so many parents in their homes, would have loved the opportunity if the school district would have said, hey, listen, we have a math class for arts and humanities or general studies, call it whatever you'd like. But it would have aligned more to the pace of the students, okay? That was never offered, it's never possible, because again, all districts have to meet the standard pace for everybody. So I think that needs to really change, and I know, again, ideally tweaking with the state. And now that the state, as you know, they've got the portrait of the student, the 4 pathways plus 1. State leadership recognizes there's multiple pathways. Right. Not everybody has the same interest. And again, to destigmatize, to have destigmatizing pathways, you base the pathways on abilities, or on interest, not abilities. In the old days, it was based on abilities. That's where we got all the stigma. So the state leadership is much more open now, and you can see that with their high school plans. They're much more open to recognizing, yes, there are different pathways. Kids do have different interests. And nobody wants to take ownership of the proficiency rates that are happening. The system is failing many kids. Academically it is, but emotionally. I don't know if there's child psychologists, but you don't need to be a child psychologist. When you push kids beyond their capabilities and beyond their pace, you probably understand the emotional toll that takes on the child, okay? We speak very casualty of low proficiency rates, things of that sort, but if you took if you can take a step back, kind of place yourself in the shoes of that child, it does some awful things to the child, okay? And you see it. Some kids, as a defensive mechanism, just tune everything right out. They disengage, they start goofing around. Yet those same kids, when they go to a system that is more aligned to their pace and interest, like BOCES, those behaviors change. The data shows this, okay? You could get into the flow theory and all that other data. And again, I apologize. Over the past 100 years, when you look at all the panels that have been convened to come up with all the research on education and the way kids learn and the best way to teach, I hate to say it, but it really leads to common sense. What all of you know innately, that kids learn at their own pace. You know what happens, how you can damage a kid emotionally. And you do recognize that when the kid is forced to move at this pace, you may see that some kids start to cry because they get stressed out. They experience all sorts of emotional issues. They feel they can't make it. They feel incapable of making it. They feel they learn that helplessness. There's a sense of, learned helplessness, that they just can't do it. No matter how much you try to remediate that child by all the special ed services, the reality is this. Just as you have a path toward academic fitness, if I were to draw a parallel, say we have a path toward physical fitness, and this semester we're going to be weight training, right? So could you imagine taking the general population of kids, all the real strong boys, the other end of the spectrum, and say, okay, we're going to weight train and we're going to choose one weight that we're all going to use and share this weight. You would laugh at it and think it's crazy. We're doing that academically with the kids, okay? So remediation, all the special ed money you're throwing into, all the extra help you're giving these kids, the reality is, and the science shows that, when the kids are close to that mark, yes, when the gaps are small, you can make a difference. But the gaps sometimes, oftentimes, are so large, we're really not making a difference. And one of the problems is, that I've seen, it's very clear, and you guys know it too, is we are celebrating passing instead of learning. We need to celebrate learning. Too many kids, you know, you've got to do something with the kids.
That's great.
So guess what? We scale back grading. We do everything we can to move the kids forward, and the kids, and really, again, the science data and common sense shows this as well. Unless you're learning your subject at like an A or B level, 80 or above level, you're really not learning it meaningfully. So what's happening when you look at even the passing rates, and you've got level 1, level 2, 3, 4, 5 for passing, a lot of these kids who are passing with 65, 70, 75, they're still not learning the material well. But the system doesn't give you a choice, so that is the best option. Try to pass these kids, but the damage you're doing to those kids, and I will use my son as an example. My son, with mathematics, particularly just recently, he goes, Dad, maybe I've got dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is a condition where, like dyslexia, except it's math related, so you really don't understand the mathematical workings that well. Well, he doesn't have dyscalculia, he just never learned it at his own pace, so he's behind. But he said that, and it really highlighted it because he's had so much help through the years, so much special help through the years, that even though he has passed, he doesn't know it meaningfully. And I know if the goal is always critical thinking, we have to promote critical thinking. The reality, as you guys know, unless you learn subject matter pretty deep, you can't critically think within that subject. So this celebration of passing, because we have to get the kids through, is harmful. And let's get to the emotional harm it does to those kids. Those kids doubt themselves. They know they're not prepared. They're kind of scared. We don't have the confident learners that we want when we're doing that. All of that leads to meaningful learning comes when it's at their pace. So the irony is, your schools have zero tolerance for bullying. The irony is, for many of the kids, the biggest bully is the system itself. That system is reminding them every day they're a failure, they're not learning, they're not incapable. And you could look this up. I don't know if there's any lawyers here.
No, we don't allow them.
Okay. But the reality is this, and I encourage you to check it with your lawyers.
We don't have any here.
If you, as a parent, knowingly put your child into a chronic condition where they kept failing at something, and it was causing, and you knew it was causing them emotional harm, their self-doubt was always getting questioned, they were experiencing all these negative things, you could be charged for child abuse. I challenge you to go to your attorneys for that. I already looked at it. Yet that same moral injury to that child is happening in the schools for many of those kids. Schools are exempt from criminal charges, of course. But when you frame part of this conversation that when you have to put this child-centered, not process-centered learning, child-centered, when you look at, my God, what is really, and again, get the medical doctors in here. But you don't need to, because I already know you know what's happening to a lot of those kids who are struggling, the emotional impact it's having on them. So when you frame it in this kind of way where you put the child first, you say the system is the biggest bully. You've got zero tolerance for bullying, yet the system itself is the biggest bully for kids. When you frame it that, guys, listen, there's zero data, zero science supports this idea that K through 8, you're moving everybody all along at the same pace. There's no science. All the data supports just the opposite. You need kids learning at their own pace. My suggestion, what I've seen as a parent experience, you just need a couple more paces. Like I said, there's probably 4 paces within the general population. You look over the bell curve, you're gonna have AP, Regents pace, call it whatever, STEM paces, whatever you wanna call it. And you're gonna have, like I say, arts and humanities pace and a general studies pace. I think we need to move in that direction. Very simply, you don't have to rewrite curriculums. Like I say, let kids go as far and as deep, and the teachers will know and assess that. We need to work with the state to get away from this silly high-stakes testing. You know, my observation is this, the reality is, sadly, you are more of compliance officers than you are educators. This is a Soviet-style type centralized organization which forces everybody to comply. It restricts how you teach, how you reach these kids. It restricts the learning capacity of the kids. And you are forced to comply. And I notice this with the IEP meetings I go to because I feel so bad. At first, I thought, years ago, I thought it was the kids who needed to be saved. But after participating more with the educators themselves, going to the IEP team meetings, recognizing that all the IEP members had their head down, knew that the system was broken, I realized it's not just the kids, but it's the educators themselves that need to be saved from this system.
Yep.
It's hurting educators, you know this, especially special ed, math teachers, those core areas where kids are most challenged, it's hurting the educators. You don't want to see your kids suffer. You love your kids. You don't want to see that.
Yeah.
This system is damaging. I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to wrap it up, and I wanted to make some comments, and I have a question for you, and maybe some board members do, because I wanted to say a couple things to you. First of all, there's so much I love with what you said. The whole system, what we're here for is only one thing, learning. Not about anything other than learning. That's the whole reason we're here. And learning doesn't come in a neat yearly package. It just doesn't. Everyone at this table learns differently and at a different pace. You are 100% right. I subscribe to that. I believe this board subscribes to that. I think you're right on. You're talking, when you're talking, I'm listening to you, and you're talking about a growth model of assessing a student. Take a student, no matter each one of us, where we're at, and making sure they grow. Not because it's June and you got to go to the next place. It's because you've made this growth, and that's how we need to recognize schools and recognize kids. How it is, the federal government and the state government have said, you're in 3rd grade, you got to be here. If you're not there, guess what? Failure school, targeted school. That's what I can't agree with you any stronger. We hear it here at the board meeting every meeting, and it's disheartening for the kid who hears that, the child who hears it. It's also disheartening for the community and the board members who have to hear that. It is a flawed system because we should be working off of a growth model, and that's what I hear you saying. And I couldn't agree with you more. It comes because we've got to rate communities and school districts. You're good, you're not good, you're based on what? It should be based on how much growth you made. But no, we take everybody in a group, we say that there's this, and you're this school, you're talking to a district that fully, at least I fully embrace that kind of thinking and support exactly where you're at. So the second part of my statement is going to be to do a little bit of information. We, the curriculum team that I'm referring to over here, principals, three principals right in a row here, former principals, they stressed in their schools, and I know the other ones did too, that every classroom should have differentiated learning. And it happens. I think if you came to our classrooms and our teachers, you should see this group working on these things, this group working on these things, this group working on. I think you'd see that. Where we lose it is when it's time to give the assessment, they all have to be at the same place. Even though these people, this was the lower group, this was the middle group, this was the high group. So you're completely right.
So this is...
My last question is, so you're here, I support this, I think I see a head nodding here, I think the board supports this. Where do we go, where do you go, what do we do?
So this is what I see. I see the educators themselves. You guys are spending 110% of your energy just surviving the day, getting through. You are spending all your energy working in this business. You can't step aside, step back to work on the business. I recognize as a parent, particularly a parent of an IEP student, I probably have one of the loudest voices, or parents have the loudest voices for change and reform. I will tell you this, Albany, and I don't mean to be critical, so forgive me, I don't mean it, but they're a paper tiger. They will not nor cannot withstand negative public scrutiny. If this were public now, and there's been a lot of tension focused on education, especially in the national media. Sadly, I will say this, the educators themselves, unfortunately, are being blamed more for the problem instead of recognizing that the model, the system you've been forced to use is what's broken. You have been assigned a duty to cloak children with the garment of education, yet you've only been given 1 or 2 sizes for all the children. I bring my 16-year-old daughter for this garment of education. She needs a size 8. You only have a size 2 or size 4. You are forced. You are not given the right model to work with.
I agree.
So what I suggest, what I want to do, the purpose of me being here tonight, is I really want to galvanize some energy to really start to affect change. Like I said, Albany's a paper tiger. If this were public, and if I had the governor in front of me and the Board of Regents guys in front of me and the news media was behind us here, they could not defend basing their model, a standard curriculum method, with 0 data to support that. When all of the data supports just the otherwise, what we're talking about, they cannot withstand. So I feel that we need to leverage the power we have, which is the science and the data. And again, the whole medical community will back us up with what it's doing to the kids, okay? So we have this power we can leverage. I don't mind being a point person, a point man, but I need your help. I need help from you guys. Because I would like to sit down with a few of your committee or whatever and just say, okay, what would it look like? What would it look like? And I know from the parents I've spoken to from Rochester and Buffalo, if their kids have interest in, like I said, non-STEM related courses, those parents would have been thrilled or would be thrilled if the school had alternative path, interest-based, not abilities-based. You want destigmatizing interest-based paths, which everybody understands. So I would like to take a role to work with maybe somebody from this district to say, okay, what would this kind of look like? How do we do it? I know there's superintendents meetings. And again, not to be critical, but part of me says I don't understand why there have not been 1,000 superintendents or school psychologists or the union members at the doorstep of Albany forcing this change. But I know, again, I see everybody sucked into survival. So
well, I can tell you, because if you don't have a child that learns that way and you're getting 90s and everything is going on, what do I care? The system's working for me. When the system's not working for you, then you're going to get people behind you, and that's who you're speaking to. And those are parents that unfortunately sometimes feel beaten down, defeated, because they've got to hear from everyone that didn't make it. Tell me, instead of, I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands pretty soon, so I'm happy to speak to you more about this.
I would say you guys would be the best candidates to work with guys.
I have a very particular growth model way. That's my model. It's called growth model, to see where your son grew from here to here. It doesn't matter if he was 18 or 8. I want to see his growth. I have a very concrete model in my head, but I'm happy to talk to you.
So, okay, so that's where I'm coming from and why I'm here this evening, to say, listen, guys, I am willing to be a point man, but I need your help. I need help. And particularly your city school district, Newport, a little bit different school district. I love everybody at Newport, but I really want to get to Buffalo, Rochester, the real city where they're struggling.
Well, you're right. You're targeting the right population, because we're the ones that take it all the time. These elected officials who come here weekly hear it all the time, and it's exactly, they should be hearing what you're saying. How much growth did he make? How much growth did she make? What's his interest pathway? Completely on board. Russ had a question.
And all of the science supports
I agree. Go ahead, Russ.
Mark, thinking back probably 20, 25 years, do you remember we were proposing to eliminate grades?
Yes.
We
Yes.
proposed to eliminate grades and you would move up depending on when you had
Right.
progress and you mastered that grade.
Yep.
And they thought we were nuts in
Yeah,
Albany.
yeah. No, it never took off. There's a lot of systemic reasons why that didn't take off. We did it back then, when you're speaking about, Russ, we were dabbling in it in K1, 2, multi-age classrooms, we were calling it. I could see Paula Spicone she was a teacher for me in Maple Avenue. She and Nancy Skirtle had a multi-age class. I was a principal, and they did it that way. So I do remember it was 1998, and that's when it came to fruition. I think that's kind of where, but I think where Mr. Rossi's going on a much bigger scale.
Yeah, the grading, again, I don't want to cut into all your time this evening because I could go on forever. But yeah, that grading system, what you guys are talking about, is actually being discussed at college levels.
Yeah.
The more research you do about grading and the high stakes type grading as opposed to the smaller portfolio comprehend, very different. There's a lot of research being done on that. And again, it will point back to what common sense shows, what you innately know about learning. Yeah. So I don't want to take up your time.
No, I appreciate you.
But I would
Appreciate
like
you.
to pursue this with somebody or a few
Yep.
of you.
I'll be the contact.
Okay.
I'll be the contact. I really appreciate, A, your passion, B, your common sense, and C, your enthusiasm to come forward. You don't have to, you could just sit there and your son, I'm sure, will be will be a big success. But you've taken some initiative in your own time.
Well, my parting sentiment would be this. Yeah, I'm fortunate. If my son did struggle for a few years after school because he learned this help and assist that he can't, I'm blessed I can help my kid get on track. I've got a business. I can help him buy a house. I can do that. But I know, especially minority communities, those kids are kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
They might not have the same kind of help to get out.
Yeah.
So with that, I thank you all for giving me the time.
Thank you.
The invitation.
Thank you.
And I'll look forward, so you will reach out to me at some point?
Yeah,
You
we'll
got
talk.
my number, right?
Yep, I do. Thank you.
Any questions before I go? Yes.
I'm Angelo
What?
and I happen to be an attorney. I've been on the board for many years, for which I am extremely gratified. But you made a statement about if the student is placed in a certain area, parents could be responsible, but of course the school districts are not criminally responsible. That led me to believe that what you were saying, that if we place a student in a certain critical condition, we could be legally, civilly responsible from some effect. And I wouldn't like to leave that impression today, because I don't think that's what you meant at this point. And
No.
I don't know what the directive is that you would assist us in. Is it changing the model? And if it is changing the model, you make the recognition that the model that is there needs approval from another entity other than this board, and therefore eliminates this possibility of liability, which you seem to implicate in your statement. I'm not being critical.
Sure.
I just am concerned about that statement out there, that if we could be responsible for placing these children in a critical position because of a model which has to be implemented by others than this board.
Right.
That's what concerns me.
Okay. So today, we understand that when we put a child into a curriculum, that the pace is way too fast for that child, that child is constantly struggling, that child is developing these feelings of helplessness, incapability, to a pace that aligns more with his learning pace, and that he becomes a confident learner. There's harmony. He's understanding. He's feeling better about himself.
All beautiful words, but how do you accomplish it?
Simply
You have
put.
the right to accomplish that without outside intervention. I don't know what you're going to be a point person to, and believe me, I don't mean to be critical.
Oh, that's good. I want to hear what you have to
do
say.
have to protect this board from a question of
Sure.
serious liability,
Okay.
of which you had raised, and I don't think it was your intention to raise it.
I fully meant to raise it, and what I meant to raise is, we know the emotional harm being done to children ahead of time by we're watching it, but we have no choice because the system forces us to put that child on that pace.
Amen.
Okay.
The system.
Oh, it's,
forces
there's
us.
no, correct, there's
It
no
isn't this
individual.
board. It isn't this board.
No,
Okay.
no, there's no, let's clear that up. It's the system, which is why schools are exempt from any legal criminal offense,
Yeah.
okay? So
I
it's
heard,
the
I heard
system.
clearly that we're going after the system,
It's the
and I'm behind that.
Like I
I'm behind
said,
that.
my sentiment toward the educators, very high regard.
Yeah.
I feel I'm the educator's best advocate.
Yeah.
Because they're forced to use something that's not working.
Yeah.
And they have no
Yeah,
choice.
I am a system disappointment. I'm disappointed in the system that we have, and I've said this for my 11 years that I'm here. We need to be in a growth model of recognition. That's all. That's all. And the system doesn't allow it because, that's what I heard you say, because we're forced to make these type of reports and hit these type of marks. And the teachers are only doing what the teachers are told
Exactly.
to do. That's what I heard. So I'm glad we clarified that.
You're held hostage.
Thank you.
Anyhow, thank you again.
All right. How about Julie Jacklin? How about Julie Jacklin? How about if we talk money? A very exciting topic. So, hold on for, Julie, if you, all right. Before we get into this, this is the section of every meeting we're going to have now until April on the budget. I just wanted to offer some background comments and some context that has occurred from our last meeting on January 26th till today. As you know, this is the second of 6 or 7 presentations we're going to make on the budget. And I want to first be very clear and transparent that this school year that we're currently in, Nick, I don't mean to ever pick on you, but you always ask the question, so you always focus me about what will our carryover be from this year to next year. Last year's budget, you nicely allocated $4.83 million in reserve to make that budget whole. Many, for at least, I can only speak for the last 9 years, we've come back to you and said, we don't even need to use that, we're going to put that back in the reserve. This year, for the first time, we're going to use approximately 3.8 of the 4.83. Now, that's my conservative report today. It could be less. I hope it's not more. Why? There's a lot of factors as to why we're using it, and Julie and I have been analyzing those, and I just to name a few very briefly, because we can go through 20 of them. The increase in charter school, $380,000 that was put on us. The settlement of child victims cases. Just 2, I don't want to start going through 20 of them. But why are we now cutting into those reserves? Because of those kind of things that we hadn't had in a while. Those are factors outside of our control, we had to do it. But I want to be very transparent and upfront that, and I pick on you, Nick, because I love you, but to answer your question, there won't be that carryover this year, and I want to be transparent with all the board. That carryover, when Drescher and Malecki come, it's not going to be layered in there this time, okay? It's just not. Right, that's where we're leading to. Julie, is that accurate?
Yes.
All right, and I know, and this is how good she is. Julie worries about that. That's not, I mean, there are factors outside of your control. We're not going to overspend our budget. We're just not going to have the difference in what we projected and what we're going to actually spend to be that much so that we'll have carryover. That's number one. Number two, I think we're going to have a close to on-time state budget. And I think that for two reasons. I don't believe April 1st because I think the Easter break falls in there, but I think early in April we'll have a state budget this year. My thinking behind that is that there's not a lot of policy in this year's budget. Who would have ever thought that a budget would have policy, but New York budgets are filled with policy. In this budget, there's not a lot of policy. The one-house budgets, because you know, and we've been meeting with our legislators, you know, this is the governor's proposal we're working off. The House, or the Assembly, and the Senate put theirs forth. Those one-house budgets will come out March 16th to March 20th. So the hope is more money will come to education. We are not going to build a budget on the hope, but those will come forward. In an interesting way, I certainly, you know, this board has supported early childhood better than any board. The push across the state has kind of hurt the foundation aid. Because what happened in the budget, the big budget, is they took money, in my opinion, that would go to foundation aid and put it in UPK. We already funded UPK. So when you see that 2.2 million on the one side that's going to help us, it would help us more if it was in the foundation aid and less restricted, if you know what I'm saying. And across the state, that probably helps some districts. It doesn't help our district as much. To Mr. Arassi's point or not point, the mechanism for funding special needs, exceptional children has got to change. It's got to change. They get an extra weighting, but the weighting is only 1.4 instead of the 1. It's just not enough. Let me give you an example of BOCES, because last year a question came, why don't we send our kids to BOCES? Niagara Orleans BOCES, to send one student in Niagara Falls to Niagara Orleans BOCES, the cost of tuition for one student is $52,000. If the child receives speech, and many of our do, that is $8,000, $60,000. If the child receives counseling, we'll say, that's $68,000, okay? For one child, multiply that by 8, because we have 813 classes, that's $640,000. Now you say, sure, but you get the money back. We don't get the money back. You have to spend at least $50,000 on a special needs child at BOCES to get a dime back. So if I'm making sense, you only get the $20,000 above it back. Am I being clear on this? I just want you to understand. Yeah, it is. That's the deductible. It's just a bad model. So sending kids to BOCES doesn't help us. Plus, BOCES is a public entity, and public entities have that $50,000 threshold. So that formula has got to change. There's a couple of threats. I will stand behind the threat of the governor's choice here on tuition tax credits of $1,700 a person as a very, very needed to be watched thing for next January. The federal government is kind of something is a threat too. We haven't received any cuts, which is good, right? We're good. But what they haven't done with the federal money that comes to us is they haven't increased it. So $5.4 million of Title I is not, that we got 3 years ago, is not $5.4 million today, because everything costs so much more. You know, Head Start at $1.6 million is not even close to what $1.6 million is today. You're financially, the people on this board are financially smart enough. So that's a threat. These are things that we just have to keep our eye on, big picture. And I just wanted to give you that preamble before Julie, who created a really interesting chart here, Ray, if you could put it up. I think this is a really interesting chart, and I'd would like to ask Julie to explain this.
Oh, sure. So this is a revenue and expense trend that we wanted to put together. So here you will see our actual last 4 fiscal years, our revenues and our expenses, and I should say this is for general fund. And then in column H there, or the 5th column over, you will see our estimated, so where we're projecting that we will end this year operating results wise, and then our projected, which is of course our budget that we will talk about next and we spoke about 2 weeks ago. And then in there, you can see that we've kind of analyzed the change in our revenues and the change in our expenses year over year. So although it's great that we've seen, our revenues increase every year, our expenses are beginning to increase at a much more rapid rate than our revenues. That's kind of the visual down below. You can see the revenues are the green line, and ideally you would like to see your revenues be above your expenses. And you can see that for 3 years, 4 years, we were at a good, well, I'll say 3 years, we were at a very good stead. 24, 25, you can see it started to tighten, and this year you can see that it's really switched, and now our expenditures are outpacing our revenues at a pretty rapid trend there.
So my watch for everyone is the green and blue line getting more separate. I think we have to watch those green and blue lines because the trend is starting to build. If you go back to remember do you see the 10% one? I can't see the years because it's cut off. But yeah, remember that was ARP COVID money, remember? That's why it was so high. But look at the projected. Our expenses are projected next year at 4.95%. The budget that we're going to show you tonight, the increase is 4.46%. So we're not really out of line with right. We're not out of line with inflation, but look at the money coming in. It's only 2.26%. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Jewel.
Well, so they're following the foundation formula, but where they've gotten tricky is using that CPI. So they're using
Right.
a CPI of 2.8, which I mean, what's increased 2.8%? And, just look at utilities, any tuitions, our medical. We are not seeing that increase. I don't know where that CPI comes from, but I don't think it's realistic. So if she were to, if they were to use a realistic CPI, obviously, we're not funded properly.
She's using CPI. So CPI is in the, two things. CPI is in the formula. But where did 2.8 come from? I can't find a CPI anywhere that's 2.8. I mean, maybe, you guys are better finance people than I am. Okay, if it's 2.8, I'll be shocked. Would you think?
Real numbers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. But we're only getting funding at 2.26. So the green and blue line are going to separate, and I just thought Julie did a really good job of articulating this with this chart for the future and for next year. The gap is starting to get bigger, and it's becoming concerning, and the tinkering with the foundation aid formula continues to be wrong. In this case, it sounds like I'm denigrating UPK. I'm not. It just doesn't help us. If they put that 2.2 million over on the other side, I feel a little bit better. And if the utilities weren't going up 15%, I mean, we put 15% in utilities. We think that might be pretty tight. And I couldn't stomach going any higher than that, but you might be sitting there saying you probably should. I just couldn't. So those expenses are way outpacing our revenues. That's the point of this. If you go to the next slide, and this is our budget. So I'll let Julie explain. So we always start on the revenue side. Julie, and the goal in the next 6 weeks is for the team to tighten these numbers up so they're as accurate as they possibly can be. Julie found a couple of positives on the revenue.
Yes, so any changes that we've made since the last presentation are highlighted in pink. So the BOCES aid and excess cost aid, we did increase those because those are based on our expenses in this current year. So we wanted to account for, as our expenses are increasing, our aid is also increasing. Again, it's not exactly a one-for-one, but we did want to show increases from the last time that we presented this. And really, that's kind of, we've really scrubbed all of our other revenue adjustments, but since we are so dependent on, state aid, really, I don't anticipate many changes until, the budget is released.
So the other thing to your question about the foundation aid formula, when it's 42 pages long, I don't know very many people who understand it. Maybe Julie does. I don't. But when I look at it, there's something called I wrote it down. The regional cost index, it looks at your area and the poverty in your area. That was last updated for this area in 2007. I think you would agree that the regional cost poverty index of this area has changed since 2007. We're using a CPI that I don't know where it came from, and we're using a regional cost index from 2007. So you can manipulate numbers any way you want to, and that's why that revenue stream is now far beyond the expense. If we go to the other side with your permission, Julie?
So last time when we presented, we had not gone through the formal process of doing projections. We used estimates. So Alicia Savino, myself, Maria, Marquesia, we did projections. So this is rolling every staff member forward in the district with their steps. So those numbers have all been updated. They were increased based on the last time the last time we presented, it was a little under budget, so they did come in a little bit higher. Also there you'll see the NFT extra duty schedule pay that also increased just as there were some additional duties added. And right now the goal is really to roll forward everything that's existing.
Right.
So that we just really wanted to capture everything. You will see tuitions for charter and out of district, that was updated. So we were using a estimated charter, I was estimating that it would increase 4%.
4%.
The actual ended up being 9%, so that was an increase there. The BOCES, as Mr. Laurie spoke about there too, our BOCES special ed tuition, we had estimated 3%. The actual came in at 9%, so we needed to account for that. TRS, there was a decrease in the rate, so we were estimating 8.75. The rate decreased to 8.24. Yes. Oh, sure. Yes.
So that takes care of that whole bill? Special ed,
A good question.
training, trades?
Yes. That is everything.
It's everything.
Computer programming stuff?
That's
It's
everything.
Ray stuff, special ed,
Yes.
it's the whole enchilada.
Right, that is,
That was my question. Wow.
yes, the large, so I think last week, and I do have, not last week, I'm sorry, last presentation, we, that line item was 500, that increase would have been 533,000. The increase to 992 is because at the time, we were, for just the special ed piece, just the tuition, I was using 3% and it came in at 9%.
We fund them. The 13 districts pay for them. Yeah, I mean, that's what they're proposing in their budget, yeah. Yeah. Or not buy the service, yeah. Yeah, again, I just wanted to show you why sometimes it's better to do things in district. Because at $60,000, at $70,000 a kid, 8 kids in a class, it's $560,000. I think we can do it cheaper and better, but that, just wanted to be illustrative of that. I get your point. Yeah, they make those rates. BOCES doesn't raise property taxes. BOCES doesn't get aid. BOCES gets payment from our 13 component districts here and in Erie 31 districts. We pay their bill, but they set their staff. We are.
Real quick question. I
Yep.
was on the BOCES thing. How many students are we servicing? You don't have to give
Yeah, I
it
do.
now.
No, I can tell you right now. About 250, Cheryl, I'm going to ask you about special ed in a minute. About 250, 260 in the, the 11th and 12th grade program. I don't know how, 250, 260. How many special ed kids do? And we have 73 at Orleans Niagara BOCES. In what? And one in Erie BOCES. So 70 to 75 kids. 70 to 75 kids. Now that's kids, Tony. Ray, you spend a lot of money. Ray spends a lot of money in technology. right? Do you know how much?
My side of the budget, or the district side of the budget right now, 5-point-something million.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not including some of the IPA stuff we're talking about.
right. 5 to 6, 5.5 million,
For basic,
5.5 million, basically in technology. And just to dispel a misnomer, they say, well, do it at BOCES because you get the reimbursement back. In every case, the reimbursement varies. So if it's for a staff member, it may be 30%. Or you need to hit a $50,000 threshold. So it's not just, hey, we get 80% back because we're a poor district. Every line has a different rate of return coming back. And that's what we have to look at. So that's, there's Ray stuff, there's special ed stuff, there's 11th to 12th grade stuff. Joe Cateno has stuff in there. We pay the officials an arbiter through there, right? So there's a million little pockets of stuff. Yeah. Carrie and Lynn have now been charged with Ray in looking at all of our software programs, right? All of our educational software programs. Ray presents it. They're going to say, we don't need this, we do need this, we don't need this, right? That's their job. So they have a contribution to BOCES. Every one of us there's a lot of wings and arms in that, right? And some of it's Orleans, some of it's Erie. Judy has a part in it. Judy buys a service for elections from Nassau? Yeah, so we all have parts in it. So it's not just people, Tony. It's everything.
I just kind of wanted to, I just had to ask.
Yeah. Last thing on it. So Cheryl is responsible for the kids that go there and the cost. There's also something called Arwada, we have to pay like a surcharge too to join that. That's what Arwada means, I think. I don't know what the initials stand for anymore. But anyway, so there's a surcharge and then there's a cost. So it's a formula that's outdated in my opinion again. Okay, I'm getting worked up. Calm down, Mark. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Go
No,
ahead. Yep, go ahead.
There's a lot under the BOCES umbrella, but I would say that the large portion of that increase is the special education tuitions.
FICA and Med you were on.
Yes, so that is increasing, just as those salaries increased, we would expect our, employer payroll tax to also increase. And then these next two lines are new items that we've added. So the summer extended school year, the executive budget proposal did include this as an initiative. And so currently how it operates is that our students who attend 12-month schooling, so school in July and August because they're in the extended school year program, that's on their IEP. That program is funded in the F fund, our grant fund. So we pay all the tuitions out of there. The state reimburses us only 80%, and then locally, the general fund picks up 20% of that share. One of the governor's initiative is that program will now be 100% funded by the state. So we can take that out of our budget because we're rolling that forward.
Right.
So that is a cost savings, an initiative in our budget.
So that was a good find.
Yes.
That was a good find and a good proposal in the governor's budget. The last one, I asked Julie to put it in there. And the reason I asked her to put this in here is I want to make sure that everything is in this budget and we didn't forget anything. So there's no surprise, oh my God, we forgot that. So I dump everything in the sauce. Dump it all in there so you know what your expense increases are. Because we went back and forth on this. Can you explain? Now this may or may not happen, but I told her to put this in here and you can explain it.
Correct. So, we are mainly reliant on state aid. So we're 85% funded by state aid. And the way state aid comes in is we get a large chunk in September. We get, payments during October, November, December, but they are not substantial. And then we get a large chunk in January. But however, as September starts, obviously all our invoices come in, we have to pay all our staff. So we may need to borrow for cash flow purposes. And that's called a revenue anticipation note. It has been a while since we've needed to use one of those, but just given the circumstances and how dependent we are on state aid and the timing of that state aid versus, when we have to make payments, we may need to borrow for cash flow purposes next year.
Or that may go away. But in the effort on the second budget run, we said, put it in there, make sure the board and everybody's aware No, it's been 9 years, Nick. We haven't had to do it, but yeah, we have. We've done bands. We've done a lot of bands bond anticipation notes to pay for the capital projects, but this is a RAND, I understand, a RAND?
Yes, yep,
RAND,
so
all right.
revenue anticipation note.
Now, this may come out, this may not come out, but I didn't want to leave $100,000 that you might get hit with not in the budget somewhere. So if you scroll up,
Oh, it's just they term it revenue anticipation notes because they know that your revenue will come in from the state. It's just what the type of funding is called. There's either bands or RANds, so bond anticipation note or revenue anticipation note. So they're figuring that state's going to reimburse? Yes, they know that we will eventually get our state aid and then we'll be able to repay that debt.
yeah, Mike, and the problem is, we need the money now, not when the state wants to give it to us.
Right.
You know, just another comment about the state, I looked at their reserves. Their reserves are growing, $14.6 billion. Now, I'm not saying, the state is building their reserve pot. We're struggling. $14.6 billion in reserves. It's increased. So I just want to, because they only let us keep 4%, I want to monitor how much they can keep. So I've been watching the state reserve fund too. And while I'm on the subject and a bit worked up, I don't understand why we can only keep 4% when municipalities can keep 8%. That's for another time, but it's another inadequacy. If you go up, two things. Remember the voters on May 19th vote on a number. They don't vote on all this. This is all your background work. They would vote on, if it was today, and I'm not saying this is the budget, 211, 893, 214, that's what Judy puts on all the stuff she puts out. If that was today, that's all they see. So anybody watching, that's what you vote on. And if it doesn't pass, first of all, it will only need a 50% majority plus one. No supermajority this year. 50%, we're not exceeding, we don't have a negative cap, we're not exceeding it. Right now, the difference between the revenues and the expenses is $7.6 million, which is, the highest we've been in a while. The only thing I will say to that is, I think we've done the best in laying out the facts. These are the facts. Now the work begins. Now we have to go into that budget and find out ways to reduce that gap. And as I said the last week, we aren't there yet. That's what happens beginning tomorrow. So that on February 26th, we'll have some updates. And I don't anticipate that gap going higher. We need to now work that down. I believe, and I'm not going to go to the second sentence, it'll be very difficult to get that number down to zero without using reserves, or if that's your choice. I also will tell you, I don't think that raising the tax levy 2.2%, which is our max, to get $500,000 is the right time to do that. I don't think that, but that'll be your call. You'll have to say, hey, we want to put the tax levy out at 2%, which is the cap, or 2.2. That's your call, but that's not where my head is right now. We can do some work first. We got work to do. The work will be, are there ways to reduce expenses? I don't know if there are any ways to increase revenues. I don't right now. What can we do to reduce expenses, and what would that look like? And then ultimately, what number will we get to in the parentheses that says, we're at X number of dollars, we'd like to ask you to use one or more of these reserves. I will say this, just because I like to always jab him, we are at the highest confident rate in workers' comp reserve anybody has ever seen. Just a little subtle shot, and that's called foreshadowing, and a little shot. So the beauty of it is, I wouldn't expect you to do that all in reserves. We need to do work. The good news is you can buy a toaster if you need to. The good news is it's not a tsunami, but it's starting to rain pretty hard. It's starting to rain pretty hard here. Questions? I want to make sure we're always transparent from our first statement about using some of the not having any carryover right to where it's at. Well, let me tell those that are watching, we will get there. I promise you, we will get there. We have 2 good months or a month and a half to get there. We will get there, and we'll present something that, A, supports learning for kids, because that's been your mission, and B, is fair to the community. It's what we've done. We will get there. We can't afford to not keep learning going. And I'm going to read a statistic in my, I'll read it now. And I'm going to read it again next week. The state put this out, and I think you should be proud. I'm really proud. People like Cheryl Velardo and Ed Ventry and the high school team should be proud. They're the ones that did this. I'm proud but not satisfied. The Niagara Falls High School graduation rate is 86%. I've always wanted to be in the 90s, and maybe this will be the year. But from 67% to 86% is good. Remember, that's Niagara Falls High School. There is another rate. It's a 4-year Niagara Falls High School rate. 4 years. I don't really care about 4 years. I just want kids to graduate. But that's the 4-year rate, and that's what they rate us on. You know that there are also kids that don't attend our school that are our kids that go to outside placements. When you include them, our rate drops to 84%. Okay? So we're running at about an 80. So if someone were to ask, and I'll publish in the paper, we have an 85% graduation rate. I really love it to be 100, but at least we need to get to the 90s soon. The other statement I want to make, because we talk about cells and schools in need of improvement, you know, our graduation rate for black students is 89%, and our graduation rate for white students is 84%. So again, all kids matter. I just want to say that because we talk in those terms and we look at that. I want to tell you that where we are we're missing in 2 areas. We are really struggling with graduation and homeless students. We're really struggling. Their attendance and their graduation rate is really low. And I also wanted to read, because at one time we had a 23% dropout rate. We now have a 6% dropout rate. The state average is 5. We're 1 percentage point above that. Spoke to the high school administrators today about that. We got to start clipping that 6% dropout rate back a little bit. It's not 23 like it was, but 6 is, want it to be 0, but that's truthful, accurate reporting. And that's what's in the system. The other thing I want to say, and you can look it up, we have surpassed a couple of schools in Niagara County with our graduation rate. We are not the lowest graduation rate in the county, and I don't want to name schools. But I want to say that because I want to thank you, congratulate the high school, not just the high school, the elementary, the middle school. They worked their tails off to get that rate up there, so I'm eternally proud of them. We're not there yet. My point in bringing this up full circle is we have to keep doing what we're doing in terms of funding what we need to fund. And Mr. Arasi was interesting because he kept mentioning pathways. I didn't want to go down that road, but you all know how many pathways we already have here. So we will get there, and we'll do it to maintain and keep programs for kids. And also, don't ever miss the fact that you have a great reserve, but you also have a reserve because we have spent money investing in people. We hired 18 social workers with pandemic money, and you kept 18 social workers. I'm not going to ask for an increase in them, but I'm going to ask to keep 18 social workers. So don't forget that our reserve is in that box, and our reserve is in people, because people help kids. So that's our story. I'm sticking to it. I'm getting worked up. I'm not there yet. No, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Not at all. I'm really not. You jarred my mind on something, though. No, it's fine. No, I'm nowhere near there yet. Julie said something that I think is very important. Everything we did this year, including the summer, was picked up and put on that left side, right? So anything that we have going on right now is in that budget. So nothing has been eliminated. The costs have gone up for it, but we picked it up and moved it over here. That's all we did. But we have to look at everything, right? We have to look at everything. There are some places we can look to. So we just haven't had time because we wanted to give you accurate numbers. But by the 26th, you'll start to see some additional lines here. Yeah, yeah, lowering the gap, and I think you'll start to see some more parenthetical reductions with explanation. I don't think you'll see much color on the revenue side, because she's done a marvelous job looking for every dime and dollar. So I mean that sincerely, Jill. If you have nothing else, we have a brief agenda. Yes, Ms. Dunn.
The graduation rates and the black students. I mean, I'm black. Of course, I'm going to hear more about black students than white students. And that's all I hear.
Yeah.
That the school district, they don't say we're failing all kids. It's always slammed in my face that the school district is failing black kids and black kids aren't graduating. I almost got into a fight because it got to the point, I wanted to just grab up a bunch of black kids and bring them here.
Yeah.
To show the public, if kids are failing, it's every kid that's failing. It's not just black kids. Right. So I hear it all the time.
Right.
And it gets me angry. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
We need to start talking more about the good that we're doing so that people can understand that we're not sitting here just to be sitting here. We are doing good, and it is working.
Yeah. And again, 89% is good. It's not where we need to be. We need to be in the 90s. We need to be in the 90s because we do. But we pay attention to that stuff, and it's a false narrative. And I'm thinking about something Mr. Rossi said, and where it's a false narrative? There are kids, students, graduates who are saying, what do they mean I don't know how to read? I know how to. That diploma that we give, we do it at the big ceremony. But those diplomas we give mid-year or whatever we do? They earn those. It wasn't like, oh, I really like you. Here you go. You know what that is? That's an affront to those teachers. That's an affront to those teachers. I would be offended. Do we talk to teachers and say, look, are we fair? It's an affront to them. They don't deserve that. And the kids say, why do they say that about us? Because it's the narrative of Niagara Falls, I say. And we have to be better than that narrative, and we've got to fight that narrative all the time, and I can't stand that narrative because they're talking about my 3 kids, his 3 kids that are going through this district, and 3 other black kids and Native kids and Pakistan. They're all doing it or not. So I'm sorry, I got a fan. Send me take a trip to the Super Bowl and watch me get wound up. Go.
The state, did they give us more money for the special ed kids that have to go to, that are now eligible to go to 25?
That's a good question. The answer is no. So they increased the eligibility. 2 things on that. 2 things, if I may. No, it was something we asked for because kids can stay till they're 21 years and 364 days. And we have 12 kids, Doc. How many of those kids? 11, 14, 8? Between 15 and 20. That's a whole class, 15 to 20 kids. No, that was an ask. No, not $1 more. The other thing I want to say about graduation rate on that is, for argument's sake, let's say it's 15. Let's say it's 15. Those exceptional children, our graduation rate is 86%. Those 15 kids count as non-graduates. Think about that.
Well, that goes.
They count as non-graduates. Yet, I love having them here. I don't have a problem with them staying, but that's the point about how you can make statistics fake. 15 beautiful children who will get what do they graduate with? It's a credential, and they earned it. They count. You have to hear that in the community. That's almost, in our district, that's a % or 2.
If those kids were...
That's wrong.
if those kids were taught at the pace that they could learn at,
Right.
it would change.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, it's exactly what we thought.
At least, and I don't mean this in the way it may sound, at least, don't penalize us for that. God, that could be a percentage. Where is the logic in that? It's to put people like you in a bad position. I'm sorry. You know what? You get to work for, like, you have 4 months left in your contract, you start saying anything you want. I'll tell you, it's a dangerous place to be, let me tell you. But it's wrong. It's wrong, and I'm going to say it. It's wrong. Okay, all right. Thank you. No, there's no more money for
And you
that.
talk about brutality, what he was speaking about, to have a special ed student reading on a 3rd grade level.
Right.
Trying to pass the Regents
Right.
exam.
Yeah.
I mean, why don't you just put them in a closet and beat them?
Right. I think that was part of his
Yeah,
point.
that's what I'm saying. It's been going on for years.
Yeah. That's why I thought he was right about the system. But
Yeah,
if
this is
that student grew to have some good life skills and was a purposeful, and will be a purposeful member of the community and society, why do we have to rate that person as, not nothing or a negative? It's inhumane. But I've got a lot to work on in my retirement, and maybe that's what I'll work on. I'm kidding. Oh yeah, we're good, right? Hey, yeah, I don't yell at Julie ever. Hey Julie, great job. Great job. We have an agenda review now. Members of the board, we have a very short agenda. Next week, Ray's going to go through the technology plan. I'll get fired up about the budget, and we'll do an agenda review. And then that's next week. The meeting, everyone, is the 26th of February, so it's 2 weeks. That's your voting meeting and public speaking meeting. I think it's you, Macri. I think, Macri, you're the one that gets me worked up. You got that dark suit on. You got me worked up. I think it's you. All right. Let's go through this. And again, I'm not trying to gloss over anything, but you've been through this. There are no, we'll go to the transfers, transfer number 7. There are no bids. There will be bids next month. Our bidding season starts next month. The reports, I'll have Maria come up and she can help me calm down a little bit. We have a number of short-term contracts. These are things that we've done. We're celebrating Black History Month this month, but we should celebrate it every month, and we do. This is for Gaskill. They're going to be bringing Vibrant Strings musical performance. There is Maple Avenue is doing culinary workshops. Physical educational professional development. There's a professional development day in March on the 19th, $750. Hyde Park is bringing in drummers. We've had a very successful film festival. We have to get you to see some of these films that these kids are making. We've done a film festival for the last 2 years. These films are incredible. They display them at the Regal Cinema. It's a full-fledged red carpet event, so they're going to start working on that. Our boxing program continues to grow. We have 51 students, all from Niagara Falls High School in boxing. As a matter of fact, we're on the precipice of starting a little boxing league. Buffalo has a team. North Tonawanda has a team. We have a team. And again, it's all controlled. It's not like when Mike gets in the ring and tries to hit me when I had a good hip. It's all controlled. He did. He took me to boxing and hit me hard. It's all controlled. You've got to come and see these kids box. It's really kind of cool. More Black History. Kimberly Gingrich is a service for a special ed adaptive assessment that we need to have an outside placement for. 9 through 15 are Saturday academies. You all know about those. 16 is Bishop Dobbs' program, and I want to thank Bishop Dobbs for allowing us to use the Bishop Dobbs, the Boys and Girls Club. You'll see and a few others. They let us use their vans to get kids moved around the city to go to internships and different things, and because it's much more cost effective than getting a bus. And there is a phys ed workshop on April 30th. We have just 8 resolutions this month. It's a small month. We have 3 grants. Indian education, we receive $114,116. Pathways and technology of $436,856. That money goes to pay for the SUNY Niagara classes for our kids. And mental health, this was a grant that had been cut off, and now they're going to provide us the money on a month-by-month basis. So this is a $70,000 payment. We thought the grant had ended in December, but now they're doing it month by month, and I'm hoping and praying that we continue to get it. 604, Judy is establishing the statutory meeting, 8 o'clock on the 20th of May, right, Judith? Voting machine custodians, there are 4 to be appointed, Judith?
There are indeed the same number as always, yep.
That we always have 4 custodians. They work on the 19th, and Judy does a good job with them. This is a reduced contract for Melinda Schmay. It's a much reduced contract. It's paid for out of a grant. TEL is for English as new language training. And the last contract is for second semester work with Say Yes. I'll talk more about some big announcements we have with Say Yes in terms of our endowment fund that is growing by the day. But this is to have the backbone infrastructure of Say Yes. Those are the resolutions.
What happened to the presentation?
March 3rd. It got moved to March 3rd. Not in Niagara Falls High School. I'll send out 1 million emails about it. That's a big one. And then we have another big one coming right after that when they heard about this one.
Embassy?
Yeah. So our hope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been in their face for.
Yeah. Our hope is we'll end this year with $3 million in our endowment. We have another ask of $7 million. We'll explain this down the line. If we were able to raise the $10 million that we're working on by the end of this school year, which I think it's a good chance, not a great chance, we will begin issuing partial tuition scholarships next year. Next year. Partial. Last dollar partial. Not full. But we don't want to wait. And we think by doing that, it'll build momentum to get even more endowment money. So if we get to that number, and the number here is 3 million, I think we can get there. Because we're clear at 1.2 million. We're clearly there. We'll be adding to it in March with a couple more. If we can get to 3 million and we can get the $7 million gift that we're really hopeful on, we'll start with partial scholarships to any high school graduate, and talk about doing things. Any high school graduate that's going to SUNY, CUNY, or 106 colleges will have the opportunity in that year. Sorry, Harjat, I look at you. We'll have the opportunity to get a partial tuition payment. Partial. I don't know if it's 50, 40, 60, 30, but we'll start dispersing that money. Remember, that money is held in a high interest account at the Niagara Area Foundation. So at the goal, it'll just keep replenishing itself with the interest rate that we have. Okay, Maria, could you? Oh, one last thing. We have to take a policy off the table. Remember Dacia's law? We have to take that off the table and vote on it. That's the only thing. Would you come up and I'll just get calm for like 30 seconds, Maria? I want my boots on the ground fan. Where them fans at? Do you know that song, Maria? You don't know that song? Buckman? You know it? Miss Buckman's a pop culture maven. She knows a lot about. I've been a little disappointed in Maria because you're usually better at that. But you know Boots on the Ground? Do you? Miss Dunn can dance it. Can you dance it? Can you dance? All right. Now, just for Carrie, when Rick Corella was here, he always did one dance number every year. So, wake Macri up. Let him learn it too. He could lose a little spice in his life there. All right, Maria, get me out of the jams I'm in.
I just am picturing Mr. Corella doing the boots on the ground dance.
Isn't it? I miss him.
Yeah.
No one picked on me or was harder on me than Rick Corella, and I miss him. What is wrong with me? Is that true?
It is true.
And I agree with you 60% of the time, and I only agreed with him 40% of the time.
And together we were 100%
Today, you were
agreement.
100% in agreement with me.
All right, beginning with the certificated report, we have some retirements. Just for your knowledge, retirements are going to continue to come in between now and the end of the year, so we'll be bringing them to you as they come in. The folks who are retiring now, if they're not retiring in 2027, are not eligible for the lifetime medical benefit. Next page, you're going to see a probationary appointment of a level 4 administrator at Hyde Park School. I believe Mr. Laurie discussed this with you at the last meeting.
She's off to a great start, too. Just a great, Ms. Ostertag is really,
Absolutely.
really pleased.
Absolutely. Some regular substitute appointments, teaching assistant, science teacher, English teacher at LaSalle Prep, and a teaching assistant at Gaskill, and a teaching assistant at 79th. Some of these folks are in for people who have gone out on long-term leaves, and other ones are out on their student teaching because they're becoming teachers for our district. So this is part of our Grow Your Own program as well. The next thing you're going to see is Schedule B, and that'll take you through, really through a significant number of the pages here until you get to the end where we're talking about Schedule E, AM, PM duties at LaSalle Prep School. Does anybody have any questions about the certificated report? There will probably be some additions by the next meeting. No? Okay, moving on to the classified report. You see some resignations there in the technology associate, food service, senior school monitor, and assistant child care associate. We are doing our best to replace those as quickly as possible, so you see some probationary appointments of assistant child care associates, special ed classroom associates, and then you see some temporary appointments for library safety officer, phys ed associate, assistant child care, and pre-K. In addition to that, we have some involuntary transfers, extension of leaves, voluntary transfers, and additional hours for after-school programming and the Say Yes Saturday Academy. Any questions about the classified report? There will also be additions to the classified report in the next meeting. Thank you.
I have just a few updates, and then I'll turn it back over to you. More than a few. How about this for a wonderful celebration? I should have started the meeting this way. We have a fourth grader at Cataract, a young man named Amir. He's been on television, so I'm okay using the name. Amir needed a kidney transplant. Yesterday he got a kidney. I mean, that's a celebration. And I just want to, he's a cataract student, and his mother was so impressive. You know, our kids go through a lot of things, right? They go through a lot of things, so heard that Amir got his kidney. I want to thank the district again. Cataract led the charge with, it still is, with GoFundMes and fundraisers, but way to go, Amir. We're all pulling for you, and we love you, and we're so glad you're in our district, and we can't wait till you get back to school. We know you'll be back soon. I want to thank Niagara Falls High School, in particular, Kashara Ashley and Carlene Chrissa. We continue 5 years after the incident with North Tonawanda to work together with the school and Niagara Wheatfield. They had a day of service on February 4th. They went to community missions, Heart, Love, and Soul, and I don't want to start naming, but did you go, were you part of this? No? You're part of everything, but that's how. But the three schools got together and continue to build relationships. So I'm really pleased that that is continuing. I know we have one board member that's particularly interested in bowling. We all are, of course. Our boys bowling team is this won the NFL championship. They fell a little short in the sectionals to get to the state, but they had a great year. So congratulations, boys bowling. And Allie Ventry in the one competition had the highest score on the girls bowling team. Again, had a good outing. She fell just a little short this time of the state championship. She must get that all from her mother. I want to recognize an Abbott student. Her name is Mariana Porter. She's a fourth grader in Miss Hardy's class. Mariana designed our shirts this year for the April 18th Walk the World celebration. So they're beautiful shirts. It was her design. It was a contest. So thank you and congratulations to Mariana. I spoke so proudly about our graduation. I think I'm going to repeat that on the 26th because I'm really proud of that, even though we always have work to do. I want to congratulate a Niagara Falls High School Big Picture student, Khadijah Menka. Khadijah Menka is a 9th grader in our Big Picture program. She wrote a Black History poem that has been picked up and will be published in a national magazine about Black history. 9th grader in Big Picture, Khadijah Menka. Really great job. I want to thank a couple of organizations. Sleep in Heavenly Peace continues to go very, very well, but I want to thank a couple of organizations that came through recently. Alpha Delta Kappa, the retired teachers, donated tons of linens, bedding for the beds, and also gave a $185 check. The Whirlpool Mothers Club donated linens and bedding for our beds. The In Tandem program donated linens. And just got a call before the meeting that Grace Lutheran Church held a fundraiser for Sleep in Heavenly Peace, and they're going to present a $3,000 check to Sleep in Heavenly Peace. So I just wanted to recognize those groups and let you know that that initiative is taking off, and I'm super proud of them. I want to also recognize all of the teachers, in particular STEM coach Ronnie McGrath, who put together a science and STEM expo on Wednesday. And I was so impressed. Just go walk to the STEM expo, speak to the kids, all grades, levels, colors. Just look at these young scientists, see if they're learning. Just challenge you to do that. Just go to that. And go with an open mind and not a critical eye. And look at 4th grader Michael Cornelius from Hyde Park School, first place. Go to 5th grade and look at Grace Misterkiewicz from GJ Mann, Carter Dixon from Mann, and Devereaux Jackus from Hyde Park School. Great projects. Go to 6th grade, Melanie Doherty from Hyde Park School, Zoe Bellavia, Derek Copeland. Go and look at the work that they've done and see if we don't have great young people. The elementary robotics team had a competition, and the Hydrobots from GJ Mann came in first place. Again, Derek Copeland, Brandon Brady, Scarlett Strange, Adelina Kudis, Carl Jr. from GJ Mann. Congratulations to all of their work in science and robotics. I really want to thank them and congratulate. I believe that I have concluded all of the things that I'd like to share with you for this evening. Our next meeting is on the 26th. Mr. President, I know we have one additional item, but I do, at the conclusion of your item, I do need to ask for a brief executive session. And at the time that it's appropriate, I'll read the reasons why into the record.
He has a speech.
Be brief, though. Okay. Unfortunately, these things happen, but we're going to be losing one of our colleagues today. And I have a resolution for him today. Mr. Michael Capizzi Jr. will be resigning effective today. And we have a resolution, whereas throughout his tenure with the Board of Education, Mr. Capizzi has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to further the best interest of Niagara Falls. And whereas Mr. Capizzi has dedicated an immeasurable amount of time and energy working to lead Niagara Falls City School Districts to achieve its place of excellence, and whereas by this resolution, the Board of Education wishes to formally acknowledge its appreciation to Mr. Capizzi for his timeless service to the Niagara Falls school community as a board member. Now and therefore we resolve that the Board of Education hereby expresses its sincere gratitude to Michael Capizzi for his contributions as a board member of the district. We further resolve that the Board of Education extends its best wishes to Mr. Capizzi for his future pursuits and endeavors. And as dated February 12th, today, 2026, signed by Mr. Laurie.
Oh, congratulations, Mike. Yes, yeah.
One more announcement. We would all like to congratulate Mr. Capizzi on his recent engagement.
Whoa!
So congratulations, Mr. Capizzi. And feel free to add anything else that you would like. I don't want to speak for you, but I do know who you're engaged to, and you're a very lucky man, and she is a lucky woman. So wishing you all the best, really, in your future endeavors. So congratulations, Mike.
Thank you for that kind resolution. You know, sometimes you wish things were different, but just to see from 5 years ago when I interviewed to come on this board, and we weren't sure if it was going to be for 3 months or 4 months, and then 2 elections later to 5 years later, I served on the best board I've ever been on. The city and the district somehow get a black eye at times. And looking from the outside, you could see what others see sometimes. So being on the inside, I realize this is one of the best school districts in the entire state. And it starts with the superintendent, it starts with the board, and it flows right down to the administration. So it's been a pleasure to serve with you guys. I don't want to do this to step down, but sometimes choices are out of your hand, and that's where we are. But thank you, it's been a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll all be in touch continuously.
Thanks, Mike. I know, I'll say this too. It's been an honor to work with you, and I appreciate personally your support. So thank you very much. And you know what? You've had a couple of trying years. We all know that. And we wish you and your family the very best. And yeah, you've had a couple of rough years, and we need to acknowledge that, but you've always stayed true to the mission of financial responsibility and doing things for kids. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. We have, there are 5 separate issues. There will be no action taken afterwards. The executive session, I'd like to read for the audience, for those that are keeping score, for those that write anonymous letters, for those that write, for those that, say all the things. Let me just tell you why we're going. I got that, right. I got it. Let me tell you why we need an executive session. These are permissible forms as listed in the rules. We'll need a motion for one matter that may lead to the appointment or promotion of a person. We need a executive session for 3 matters that could be for the discipline, suspension, or dismissal of a person, 3 separate matters, and 1 item that deals with, I'm looking for the one, contract negotiations. It is more succinctly and artfully said, collective bargaining negotiations protected under the Taylor Law. Those are the 5 reasons. There will be no need to vote afterwards, and I would appreciate your support on those executive session items.